Welcome to Washington Law. This podcast is separate from my role as an attorney. However, it is my job to educate, entertain, and teach. So welcome to the show, and we're going to talk today about Alex Murdaugh's trial and how it ended, but there's been a lot of fireworks ever since. Over to the video. This is Becky Hill right here on the right, who is the court clerk. Interesting black and white filter they got going here. Sounds like plagiarism is what they're talking about. What plagiarism is that? We'll listen and find out.
So according to folks, SLED did not get the phone that they were looking for.
If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button below and hit me up in the comments if you got any other facts.
Now Hill's ghostwriter for Behind the Doors of Justice, Neil Gordon, is distancing himself from Becky Hill and her scandals. Her attorney, citing deadline pressure, which of course was self-imposed since the book was self-published.
I spent Thursday evening for 6 hours looking through emails that were released from Colleton County, Becky Hill's emails that occurred between her and different people. And I discovered actually Friday morning, and then I noticed a long text, and the material started off with, on the 12th day of the trial, Alex Murdaugh stared straight ahead. And I said, that's the opening of one of our chapters. And I said, oh my God, Becky. And I kind of held my head.
This is the ghostwriter for Becky Hill, the clerk. He's saying, hey, I was working with Becky, and then these things came up. One of those things is plagiarism that he claims that she's done. And he's not happy about it. So it sounds like the plagiarism that he's claiming, he read the BBC article and was like, wow, that looks just like the article that we wrote in the book that I wrote as the ghostwriter. So she took what I wrote as the ghostwriter and used it, and then that would be probably a breach of their agreement.
Has confirmed it has 2 criminal investigations open into Hill. A spokesperson told me in a statement that the one investigation regards alleged interactions with the jury in the State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
Number 1, regarding her alleged interactions with jury in the state, it's my understanding that they're alleging that she had direct communication with a juror, giving kind of, these side statements to the jury about the credibility of the defendant. Now, in the smaller counties, when they don't have as many trials going on, then there's more of a direct relationship between the judge, the clerk, the jury, and the defendant. Everybody involved, the head of the clerk's office, is not very much involved whatsoever in these trials. Jury Duty on Amazon Prime. If you haven't, watch it. It's hilarious. It's so funny. It's kind of like The Office style show, but everybody's an actor except for the one guy, and they're all like on jury duty, but the one guy doesn't know that it's a show. Totally funny, but it's realistic, where you might have not even seen the clerk in that situation. There was a bailiff, they're keeping track of the jurors. There could be clerk's office employees assisting, but a lot of it's through the judicial assistants, law clerks, not the head clerk. I would assume the head clerk is very much a managerial position where they're overseeing, planning, and doing that kind of thing.
And the second is regarding allegations she used her elected position for personal gain.
In my mind, number 2, she used this as an opportunity to write a book, and which is very common. Almost every time you have a national situation like this, ghostwriters come into the picture and these individuals write books. And I don't know if it's ever happened before, but in this case, even the clerk wrote a book. I think O.J. Simpson was kind of the start of that trial, which every single person, all the major players that were involved, from my understanding, except for the judge, because he felt that was inappropriate, wrote a book. And so since then, that's what people do, is they write books.
We knew SLED was investigating the jury tampering allegations leveled by Alex Murdaugh's defense team because of his motion for a new trial, but calling it a criminal investigation takes things to an entirely new level.
So you are not only going to have him and his team doing an appeal for this, but then the second investigation, which is pretty unheard of, which is SLED's now doing the investigation.
The second part, using her elected position for personal gain, that possibly has to do with her book, Behind the Doors of Justice, co-written by a man named Neil Gordon. Now, this isn't the only trouble that Hill could be in. Her son, Jeff Colt Hill, faces a wiretapping charge, accused of eavesdropping on a county employee. Fitz News says it was to keep his mom up to date on a pending Ethics Commission investigation.
Wow. Okay, so I've not heard of that. Our new allegations of the son wiretapping to benefit his mom so she could hear about what these potential ethics questions would be. Because not only would there be a criminal investigation, there will be an ethics violation based on how these allegations shake out, if they're true or not. She's worried about it because she had, what they're alleging is that she instructed her son to do wiretapping. That's a big deal.
Regarding the book and other allegations, Becky Hill was served with a search warrant for her county-issued phone late last year.
As the ethics investigations into Becky Hill were escalating, her son took the step of removing her phone line from the county and into a personal account for Becky Hill. So at the very moment where the ethics investigations were starting to gain some intensity, where Becky Hill was starting to come under the microscope, they took the cell phone off of the county plan and put it on Becky Hill's personal plan.
Her son was obviously the head of IT for Colleton County.
Wow, small town. The mom's the clerk and the son's the head of IT.
But do we know, was there a cloud attached to the phone? Anything on her phone related to county business would have been a public record, including texts, emails, anything of the sort.
During the trial, again, this government-issued Samsung device, she was apparently still using that up until September the 5th. And if you want to know why that September the 5th date is important, that's the day that Alex Murdaugh's attorneys dropped their motion accusing her of tampering with the jury. So all of a sudden, that phone is then gone.
Same day. Very interesting. Yeah. What do y'all think about that? It turned from Mr. Murdaugh's trial of murdering his family to now a second trial in the courthouse, involved with the courthouse employees. This is wild. I mean, this is like maybe once in a lifetime situation that you would hear of something like this happening, where the clerk is now being criminally investigated, and the clerk has all these issues that are come up, and then her son's also involved. Based on the interviews, based on the book, and based on how she would discuss this, that she wanted to be involved. The motive is she would write this book, and if he was found guilty, the book would sell. I mean, that's my interpretation of what I think that the attorneys are arguing. The fact that that could have potentially happened to a defendant, if this is true, is scary, is really scary for everybody, because you can have something totally outside of the courthouse or outside of the courtroom, something in the hallway, affect the jurors to essentially, taint the well or poison the jury, is honestly the justice system's worst nightmare. In my experience, this would be a very unusual thing to happen, because you don't have the head clerk in most cases, in the big cities at least, which do a lot of the criminal trials. They're not actively working with the jury. One statement from a judge, one statement from a clerk, one statement from somebody it has to be completely impartial. You can't show favorability to the defense. You can't show favorability to the prosecution. They'll do that on their own. You don't have to, if they're not to be trusted, that's what the system's for. That's what the trials are for, so that we can show these types of things, that there's evidence as to why somebody should be believed or not, and the body language and all that. Not from the mouth of a government employee. I'm wanting to follow up with this when we hear anything more, not just from the ghostwriters, but if there's anything comes down in these investigations. I'm just shocked. I cannot believe it. I can't believe what we got going here. Thanks for watching. Peace.